Alright, I hope you've been having fun hacking so far. So far, we managed to get root access to our target machine purely on information based on the Nmap scan. In this video, we're going to see how we're going to utilize information provided to us by the Nessus scanner to get root access yet again. And I'm going to be looking here at the very first vulnerability reported by Nessus, titled Debian OpenSSH OpenSSL Package Random Number Generator Weakness. And as we've seen before, Nessus tells us what port and what protocol is affected, obviously also the IP address, and some reference information, which can be the BID, CVE, and so on. These are particular references if we want to get more information about the vulnerability itself. So for example, CVE 2008-0166 is the particular number assigned to this vulnerability. So if I go and look up this number, I can find more information about this particular vulnerability. And I'm going to do just that. I went and looked it up, and I tested a few options without taking you through the entire test process, which, by the way, as a penetration tester or as an ethical hacker, you should be doing. So what I've done is I went through some of these links here. I read through them, I tried out a few tools, and eventually I decided on one that I thought would work. And that particular one is a GitHub link that has collected a number of different exploits for this particular vulnerability, as you can see here. I'm going to choose the Python one. Obviously, you can choose any one you wish. And the reason I chose this particular exploit, not just because it's written in Python, but because the person that wrote this exploit has written some detailed instructions on how to use it, which makes things a lot more easier. So as you can see here, there are 3 different steps to executing or running this exploit. The first step is we have to download a particular file, and then we extract these files, and then lastly, we execute or we run the exploit. So let's start with the first step. The very first thing I want to do is I want to download the exploit file, or this Python file that you're looking at right now. And to do that, there's a download link on the exploit database page. I'm going to copy this link, and using wget, which we've seen already, I'm going to download the script on my Kali machine. I'm going to try it out very quickly just to make sure that the script runs perfectly. And to run Python scripts, all you need to do is type Python and the script name. And here we go. It looks like it's working perfectly. It gives us some output that tells us how to use the script, which is something standard that you see in most of these scripts. So now we start by following the instructions. I want to download one of these 2 files that the exploit writer asked us to download. I'm going with the second one. Before I do, actually, let me explain very briefly about what this vulnerability is and how it works. You've seen in a previous video how we set up the SSH server. And you've also seen that the SSH server requires certain encryption keys for us to log in. Without going into the details of encryption and how it works, think of the secret key as some kind of a password that logs you in. Not exactly, but think about it like this for now, just for now. And in certain older versions of Debian, there's been an issue in generating these keys. If you remember when we set up our SSH server on Kali, I recommended that you guys change the keys. Because sometimes if you download a ready-made image, you'll have preset keys that somebody could guess. So in that particular version of Debian, what happened is if you generate these keys, there's a certain bug that limits the number of generated keys to everybody. So instead of having millions or billions of possibilities, that makes it impossible for somebody to guess your key. There was a bug that made the number of keys generated very limited, meaning that somebody could write a script and try to guess your key because the number of guesses will be limited. And this is the exploit that we're going to be running now. This particular file that we're going to be downloading here is the set of possible keys that can be tried. So one of these keys that we're going to be downloading is going to be the successful key that allows us to log in into SSH. To download this file, I'm going to copy the link, and again, using wget, I'm going to download it on my machine. Now notice that this is a tar.bz2 file. We talked about compression in earlier videos, but just for the sake of this video, I'm going to assume that we have no idea what this file is or how we can uncompress it. So I'm going to be using some of the tips that I told you about before. The first thing I'm going to do is type file and the name of the file. And this will tell me that this is a bzip2 compressed data file. So now I know that bz2 or bz2 stands for bzip2. And to find out what can I use to deal with bzipped file, I'll type apropos bzip2. I'll see that there are a number of options. The one that seems the most probable is the bzip2 tool. So I'm just going to use that with the -- help option to see what can I do with it. And you can immediately notice in the second option that the -d decompresses the file. So I'm going to go with the -d option and follow that with the file name. It takes a while for the file to decompress. And now I have a tar file, a .tar file. Again, we went through tar files and I explained how you can untar files. But assuming that we have no idea what a tar file is, we can still follow the same process and type file, the file name .tar. This tells me that this is a tar archive. And I type apropos tar, which gives me a number of options. I'll go with the tar option. And without going through the help options, we've seen this already. It's extract, bverbose, and the file name. And as you can see here, all of these are possible keys that we're going to be trying against our target. And one of them hopefully will work. Now we took 2 steps to decompress and untar this file. So we used the bzip tool and then we used the tar tool. However, we could have done that in one quick step using the tar xvjf option. J deals with the bzip files. Let me delete that. And let me quickly list the contents of the directories just to double check that everything is there. Perfect. Now I can run the script. Let me run it again. And as you can see here in the output example, this tells me that I need to run the script with the directory where I have extracted the keys, then followed with the host IP, which is my target IP, then followed with the port number. And this is why it's extremely important to do port scanning, because as we've seen before, we had different FTP servers running on different ports. I cannot just assume automatically that SSH is going to be running on port 22. In most cases, yes it is. But in case the target had a different SSH server running on another port, let's say 2222, then my attack here would have failed if I just automatically assumed that it's on port 22 only. Here it is on port 22, so I'm going to go ahead with that. And then the last option that I need to specify is the number of threads. Threads basically means the number of connections that I'm going to make simultaneously to the SSH server. So how many keys am I trying at the same time? I can go with a big number like 100 or 50. However, that might overwhelm the SSH server and it might have dropped the connection. So even if the key is correct, I would fail to detect it. So I'm going to keep it on the lower end and go with 10 only. This is going to take a while, so I'm going to speed up the video. As you can see here, it's still going. So I stopped recording so I don't keep you guys waiting for the whole guessing process. But now I have an output from the script that says a key is found. And the exploit writer or the script writer was kind enough to tell us exactly what command we need to execute to use this key and log into the target. And here's the command. It's ssh -l root, which says use the username root please, log in as root, -p22, which you should have guessed by now is port 22, -i specifies what key I'm going to be using, and towards the end is the IP address of what I want to log into. So I'm going to copy paste this, run it, and here we go. I'm logged in as root. Perfect. So that's another way we managed to get into our target as root. To terminate the SSH connection, I'm going to type exit. Now here's the thing. I want to copy these keys and keep them in a separate directory because the ones that they're already in, there's thousands of other keys. And I don't want all of that. I just want to keep these keys that worked so I can use them later on. But how am I going to find these keys among tens of thousands of other keys? We're going to be using simple tricks that we learned in previous videos. So let me copy the first few characters of the key name. And then I'm going to create a directory, call it keys. This is where I'm going to be saving these keys. Now if I do ls rsa/2048, look at that, there are thousands of keys in this directory. So what I'm going to do now to find the exact name of the key is to pipe into grep and the first few characters. Now the ls gave me the exact names of the keys that I need to copy. It ignored the rest and it grepped only the keys that I want. So now I know what the name of the key is. And all I have to do now is copy this name and issue a copy command from the target folder to the destination folder. Because there are two keys, I'm going to be using a wildcard again. And now if I do ls on the keys directory, my keys have been copied and I can use them later on. Perfect. So go ahead and give that a try, and when you're done, here's your mission for this section. We just finished attacking the service on port 22. There's another service on port 23. See if you can attack it and get access to the system through it. And notice, do you get root access or not? If not, can you still execute commands as root? So even if you're logged in but not as root, can that particular user run or execute commands as root? When you're done with port 23, go ahead and try port 513. And the question here will be, did you use the same commands to connect to both ports 23 and 513, or did you use different commands? And lastly, what about port 1524? Try that port as well. When you're done, let's move on to the next video.